things. Let's go.
Do it. Go. Do it.
All right. So yeah, I guess I did want to say tonight's open mic, so anybody can present. We're starting off with David. He's the only one who probably has anything prepared that I know of. So it could be short tonight. But yeah, at the very least, open up discussion and maybe trigger some other people to contribute as well tonight. All right.
All right.
Thanks, David.
Well, thank you, Eric. So just, I guess, for those that are online and maybe for those that are here, I don't know, a little bit about myself, and then I'll get into a couple of things that have been, I don't know, useful to me in the last, well, I haven't been developing for a decade, but in the last decade that I have, whatever portion of it that I've been using FileMaker and developing in it. So my name is David Tsvirinko. You can call me Mr. T. I am a human resources solutions developer. I work for Fresno County Superintendent of Schools. I'm in the public education industry. My development experience, I'm an in-house developer. I've been doing that since about 2013. Mostly self-taught. I guess it doesn't exclude, attending DEF CON and online tutorials put on by, I've watched a ton of Richard Carlton videos and other stuff that's available online to where I could learn different things. So that's kind of my experience. And then my sort of agenda for tonight. So I came up with like 3 things that have both either tools or techniques that have helped me in the solutions that I've developed. And so the first one is the perform script on other client, and I'll explain in a little bit what that is. And then also Barcode Creator by Geist Interactive has been a helpful tool in the things that I've done, and then as well as the LOgiCATOR. So my plan is just to kind of go through each one, show you how, or tell you how I've used it in my own solutions. So we'll start with the perform script on other clients. So we have obviously the PSOS perform script on server that's in FileMaker, but there's also a way to kind of maybe a bit of a hack, but to get another FileMaker client to perform a script that's, essentially one client triggering another client to do a script. And so again, everything that I share today isn't my own creation. So this I learned from ClickWorks. They're a Belgian company, and so they have it written up on their blog, on their website. And then also at one point, Richard Carlton covered it in one of his videos. And so kind of between searching the web. But essentially, the challenge that I was having is I developed the visitor sign-in system for our organization. So just like we sign in here at FileMaker, where we show up, I developed a similar system for us, and we deployed it on using FileMaker Go, using iPads at our, main lobby. And so the challenge is I wanted to fully script the sign-in process and the printing of the badge. So when I think I have kind of that's the screen of the system. So when a visitor walks in, this is what they see on an iPad. They select an appropriate option, and then they, type in their name, some information, and when they hit that sign-in button, I wanted that to trigger the printing of the badge without any kind of additional dialogues popping up. And the challenge was that iOS does not allow you to suppress its own print dialog. So I couldn't just use the print command because it would pop up the iOS native print dialog before it would print to the label printer. So I had to find another way. So essentially I used the strategy that ClickWorks came up with. They demonstrated it in the realm of doing printing PDFs or creating PDFs through WebDirect before that was possible natively. And so they basically used this technique to where you would be in WebDirect, but you would be triggering a script on a FileMaker Pro client somewhere else that would then create that PDF, dump it into a container field, and you would see it in WebDirect. So I adopted that strategy. And so then what I was doing is basically I have a sort of a robot PC that has FileMaker open, and it sits on a particular layout. So when this sign-in button is clicked, it triggers that client to run a script, and it passes the ID of this particular visitor to it. It prints the badge, and it shows up right there at the printer next to that iPad.
So you're not talking about doing this like hitting random clients, but you have a specific client that you're hitting every time.
It's specific because that's the only client that's listening for this trigger.
Okay.
So technically, if I had several, then they all would get triggered at the same time. There's ways you can there's ways to, I think, do it to where you can specify a particular client. You'd have to get a little bit more complicated with it, where you'd have maybe particular client IDs, and it would know that, hey, if it was using this particular ID, this client needs to be triggered versus something else. But basically, it's using the on-record load trigger. And so what it does is it basically, I have like a session table that creates a record, and the layout that's waiting for the trigger is on that table. So as soon as a record's created, it triggers a script and it runs the script. At the end of that script, I delete the record. And so
you have to have the found set of all records. Otherwise, that record doesn't show up in that list.
Right. So right. So the part of the strategy is you create a record and then you delete the record. So there's always you always have 0 records.
Right.
And it creates a brand new record, and so then it triggers the on-record load. And the one caveat also, or one thing that I learned through this is that on-record load gets triggered when a record is deleted. So it could go either way. You're deleting a record, would trigger it, or it could trigger on creating a record. But again, yeah, like if you have multiples, it has to be the first record. So you have to somehow either have a found set that doesn't have any records, and then you create a record that is part of that. Anyways, that was a hurdle that I had, where this particular technique allowed me to overcome the limitation that's in iOS and FileMaker Go, to be able to suppress that print dialog and completely script it myself. Obviously, it requires a little bit of a hack to where I have to run this other client, but and I don't think, I think that's still, and it's not a limitation on FileMaker's side. I think it's just one of those things where iOS, the operating system itself, does not allow you to suppress it. So unfortunately, and I don't think that's changed, because this was developed. I was working on it 2016 timeframe. We started using it in March 2017. So that was the case back then, and I think it's still the case now, where iOS won't let you suppress their dialog.
Now, is it accurate to say you're doing this because server can't do this at the moment?
Right, and that's the other, so if server could do it, then I could tell the server to print to a particular printer, and it would take care of it, but server still can't do it, so I need an actual FileMaker Pro client that, would do this for me.
So basically, the client has to be on that certain layout then.
Right.
And so what if the client crashed and you had to restart FileMaker?
Right. So so there's some maintenance there. Yeah. So if the server went down, or the client crashed, or that PC that it's on was restarted, and I need to fire up FileMaker, get it to the right layout, and then it would start working.
Yes, if it was really mission critical, you could have other ways to either keep that up or have backup clients.
Yeah.
As well.
I mean, we've had situations where, hey, it's not printing, and I go back, like, oh, yep, it's off. That's why it's not printing. So I just launch it real quick. And it's been a little while since I set up the script, and I don't have it here to go through the detail necessarily. So if anyone's interested, there's information obviously online if you go to ClickWorks, and you can figure out, kind of for your own implementation. But it does kind of, there is like a session table, so I have it scripted to where if it went down and I bring it back up, it'll cycle through all those records that were created and print them all out.
Right.
So they're not lost in that way. But you're right, you kind of have to keep an eye on it, but we usually discover it really quickly. Visitor walks in, nothing prints. All right, let me check. Sure enough, something happened. But it doesn't happen too often. But again, that is a risk.
QuickWorks in European Union?
They're in Belgium.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I was looking for the documentation as you were talking.
Yeah, it's on there.
I think they're still in the European Union.
Oh, okay.
No Belgics or something.
No exit. Burp. No burps.
All right, I don't know. Any other questions, comments?
Just like curiosity, where's your accent from?
Well, I was born in the former Soviet Union.
Oh, okay.
So I grew up speaking Russian.
Oh, wow.
And then,
was that on your?
No, you know what? I kind of left that out. But I've been in the States for it's going to be 30 years this April.
Well,
yeah.
Nobody said it already. Welcome.
So majority of my life has been here in California. All right. So my other thing was a tool that's created by Geist Interactive called Barcode Creator. Again, I used this in our visitor sign-in system also because one of the things we wanted to do is we wanted to print a barcode on the visitor tag. And when the visitor leaves, we have a scanner set up and they just scan the barcode, the system signs them out. And so Barcode Creator is a native way to do barcodes in FileMaker. So it's just when it does cost, Geist charges for this, but it's fully native FileMaker, just a bunch of scripts that you copy and you pass a parameter to it to integrate, tell it what you want to encode, and then you tell it where you want the barcode to be stored. Puts it in the container field for you. And so otherwise, you don't need to know how it works. No need to mess with the scripts or anything like that. So our visitor tags looks like that with the barcode printed on there. And so again, that was an important piece. Again, the system gets used hundreds of times a day.
And what does that code represent? Just a number?
It's just a number, yeah. So when they sign in, it just auto assigns a serial number to that visitor. And so that's what
Who scans that?
The visitor, when they're walking out, we have a reception that tells them, hey, please take that off and scan it. They scan it, there's a trash can, they can throw it away. It'll be done. So that's Barcode Creator.
Were you going to say any more on that?
That's pretty much it, yeah.
You want to give us a peek at what's involved in setting that up?
Setting that up? Sure. Yeah. I think
Well, you have to go through the whole thing, but I mean, it's like, well, these are some scripts and some...
Yeah, well, you mean like show you what the scripts look like?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, give me a second here. So this is our sign-in system. This is the back end of it, but so let me get to the scripts. So what I got from Geist Interactive is basically this folder that contains several scripts. And inside there, there's obviously a README one, which gives you instructions. This create barcode script. Again, it's been a little while, and I didn't have a whole lot of time to kind of refresh my memory on all this, but...
Now, those other folders, are they important as well, those public and private ones?
Those are essentially important to the process, but you don't do anything with them.
Oh, okay.
If I recall correctly, trying to remember, is it here?
And the only thing you had to do was import these scripts, and that was it.
That's all I had to do is import these scripts, and I needed to pass a parameter basically to the script. So it was pretty simple. Let's see if we look at the README. I think it has input. Okay, so you could use multiple. Let's see. Barcode. So then, yeah, once it's done, it just inserts the barcode image into a container field, or it can return a base64 encoded image as a script result. So either way, the way I use it is just put it in a container field, and then that's what shows up on the layout that gets printed for the badge.
Nice. Looks like they did a lot of work on this. Is that Jeremy Bonte was involved in this? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I remember when they first demoed this over at DevCon. I forget which DevCon, but they used it in the DevCon to Go app, and they were, how was it? Oh, it was to share information. So you could on your
okay, yes,
on your phone, you could actually have the barcode that represented, your information.
And I think they used QR code in that case because that's QR code.
Yeah. So instead of having a badge, you had to carry around and show all the time. It could be on your phone, and you could actually show your phone, and somebody could scan it. Usually, I think the vendors sometimes used it. You could even actually use that to share
your contact
info with another DevCon to Go user. So if another person had the same app, they could actually scan that with the camera. It would feed the information, so you'd be able to give your contact information to somebody else that way.
Right.
And then I was really impressed with that use at first, and then I realized, well, it'd be really cool, even cooler if actually there was some sort of peer sharing on the phones for FileMaker Go, but oh well.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a great demo because everybody could see it, and she had like 1,000 users who could see that all at one go.
Right.
How did you discover the app?
I was just searching the web because I needed a way to create barcodes, and so I just
Okay. Now you must have seen other ones. Why did you pick that one?
Well, there were no
other ones.
It's been a little while. I think there were other ones, but they required plugins.
Oh, okay.
And this one did not require a plugin, and so that seemed more advantageous because it would be FileMaker native. I've been using this solution for 3 years now, and haven't had to do any updates. It just works.
Yeah, I've heard of people using special fonts as well to try to make use of, to do that.
Yeah, I haven't had to do any special fonts, and so this has worked flawlessly.
So I was about to get Barcode Creator because we were talking about this earlier. Because I had a similar need for it, but one of our other programmers at San Jose State, she had actually had to develop a barcode solution for a web solution that they did, and so I was like, well, do we go out and buy this? Which it probably would have been better for me to buy it, but just to get it done quickly, we said, well, let's just do an insert from URL and pass the parameter to that PHP functions they have running on that server, and it sent back to us the actual image. And so that works, but it is kind of slow. So it's like we even have to put like a half-second or quarter-second pause to make sure we catch it before we do the next step. Otherwise, because actually it's supposed to print this out, similar to what you're doing.
Right.
We're printing out a sheet that's supposed to have that barcode on it. It was printing faster than it could bring back the so we had to do a little quick pause just before that, and then it would pull it in, or it would refresh or something. I don't know exactly what the issue was, but we got that to work just fine. I guess the other issue was I was trying to test it out just now, but it apparently doesn't work over the VPN. It only works on campus. So it's nice to have it all folded into one solution.
And it's very fast, right? Because I have it basically. I call this create barcode script inside of my own sign-in script, and so it finishes. Let's see, where is it at?
And are you storing it in a container?
Yeah.
And it's a stored container?
Yeah. So first I call the create barcode script, and then I run my print script, which triggers the client, and then it prints. So it basically makes sure that barcode is created, and then it runs the print job. And it's milliseconds.
Very fast.
It's very fast.
Yeah.
I mean, the visitor's right there at the iPad. The printer's here. When they hit sign in, it gives them a little preview that I mocked up and said, hey, and then it prints right there. Within seconds, they're usually like, before they can realize it, it's already waiting for them.
I guess one other difference on our barcode solution is that instead of storing it, we think, whoa, because I was thinking, okay, I'm going to store all these little images. You know, we're talking about like hundreds of thousands of sheets actually, and we said, well, do I really need to store it because we have the number, and so we could just generate it on the fly. And so I would just put a global field on there instead, and we just every time you go to the page, it'd refresh.
Okay. Yeah, so I should check. These images are pretty small, so it hasn't really impacted the size of the
images or something like that.
Yeah, they're very small. So that's another way to do it. Yeah, if you only, I mean, technically, really need it just at one time. Yeah. In my case, too, it's just printed, and then we're done.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I wonder how that works internally. Is he maybe using like a web viewer and JavaScript to generate that?
I know there's some base 64.
Base 64. So yeah, he's coding it out and creating the code you would need to display the image, right?
Right. Well, this is my script. Again, I don't know if I have permission to show the details of this, but there's the
all the important parts is actually how he calculates the images. Mm-hmm. But I mean, not how he calculates, but the actual code of each kind.
Right. So in the private folder is where I think all the calculation happens. There's a script that says convert number to binary, format GS1 data, parse structure, report barcode creator error, and then there's image rendering scripts that are, you know, doing different things. It's creating a PNG or EPS depending.
Yeah. So easily over $200 worth of programming there, so you might as well just go out and buy it.
Right. Yeah. So a single site license is $200, so it's pretty inexpensive to do this. And like I said, I haven't had to really delve into these private and public folders. It just works.
Excellent.
All right. Back to this. And then the last one that I had was the LOgiCATOR, which I learned about actually here at DIGFM a couple of years ago.
Twice, yeah.
Yeah,
they actually did two presentations on that, one year after the other, right?
And I think I was at both.
Who was that?
Mark Scott. Yeah. So that was really cool. Again, one of those plug and play type of things where you don't need to know how it works; it just does. So the way I use it, I have a solution that manages our employee contracts. I work in human resources, and so when I first built this solution, you know, I had, and you'll see in the screenshot here that there's a search box to the right, and it was just. Again, the way when I deploy a solution to the users, I want to make sure I don't expose the status bar. You know, it's limited menu, and so I script everything. You know, all the navigation and everything inside the solution itself. And so search is one of those things. So I built a simple search that just goes out and searches on the person's name and the last four of their social security number. And that's it. So if the user wants to create a more robust found set of a set of employees based on other criteria, for me to, you know, try to sort of build that search functionality, just a lot of work. So when I heard about LOgiCATOR, that was a great way to plug that in and then open up that capability of searching on any set of criteria that's, you know, based on the data that's in the system. And so what I did was I just put a little text underneath my search bar that says advanced search. It's hard to see on screen here. It made it a button. And so when you click on that, LOgiCATOR comes up and you can build your advanced search.
Now, the user gets to do this.
The user gets to do that.
Oh, right.
Yeah, the user gets to do that. Obviously, the functionality of LOgiCATOR is that you can do, you know, any number of criteria. You can even do groups. You can save your search. So you can, if it's a repeat search, you can save it and come back to it later. And so anyways, I have a simple search, like on a day-to-day, something you just need to get to a particular employee, you just type in their name and you're there. Or something where you can get a nice found set based on a variety of criteria. So I'm using it in one solution now, but it's one of those things where, you know, I'm going to start using it in other solutions as well, just because just the power it provides as far as, you know, getting found sets.
How long did it take you to implement that?
Not very long.
37 seconds.
Well, if you know what you're doing.
No, I just followed the instructions that
Really?
were provided in a blank file, 37 seconds. I timed it. I did it in front of the crowd in Europe.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't time myself, and it probably took me a little bit longer, but no more than a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very, very easy.
It's very elegant.
It took me longer because but that's because I was trying to understand it first.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. It's one of those things, don't try to understand it, just use it. So, yeah, very, very elegant.
After all, you did give like two-hour presentations on what was involved there.
Two-hour presentation?
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Well, there was a lot of overlap there, but yeah, essentially. Yeah.
Right.
Came back with the
because,
improvements.
well, yeah, there were some improvements done, so it's actually working even better now.
Which version do you have?
I think that's the latest.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I implemented this fairly recently, maybe in the last year or so.
Has Mark Scott still been working on that, or?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Still going on. Yeah.
Huh. I mean, it's a pretty nice solution already. I guess I remember when I started implementing it, I had some ideas like, it'd be nice if it did this or that.
Uh-huh.
But, yeah.
I mean, it's cool the way it scrapes the things on the layout and,
Yeah.
and
So you can adapt it to any layout you've got.
but not only that, like if you get into it, there's a whole bunch of like directives that you can provide. So for can you hear me? Yeah, is that all right? Loud enough?
Yeah.
Okay. So you can set up some custom JSON that provides directives on what fields to exclude, certain fields to turn into Boolean if you want them to be a Boolean or stuff. So there's like some nice customization that you can follow the JSON format for it, and presto, it's really, really easy.
Huh.
And if, like, for example, you have a related field that you want the user to search on, you just drop it on the layout, and LOgiCATOR will scrape it and see it. And then if you want, let's say, a nice label, a friendly label, let's say you have field names that are camel case or whatever, I think, if I remember correctly, he already does stuff to support camel case, which means he turns it into friendly,
Well, I think you can see it on there, because most of my fields are camel case.
Yeah.
And there you see the date higher, it says it's spaced out.
Yeah.
So otherwise I have it together. Yeah.
No spaces.
Yeah. So, I mean, it does a lot of cool things.
And it also, I mean, you can get fancy to where you can leave a preferred or like a different name of the field in the comments.
That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah,
You put it in the comments and it scrapes that.
and it'll pick that up and it'll use that. So like if you have some awkward way that you've labeled the field or called the field and you want it to be displayed different to the user, you just leave in the comments.
So I was kind of using comments for that sort of thing too, to just pull out labels. It really does. We do need a label. We need a label option in there.
And export label name. Also.
Yeah. But
what's cool about LOgiCATOR is if you have a layout with a lot of fields, like a form view, when a user gets into find mode, if they're used to entering data there, they probably know where the field is to search on. But what's nice about this is it gives it a consistent, familiar user experience, where if you say, I want to search, you choose the field from a pop-up menu, then you specify the criteria, like equals or whatever, starts with or contains.
I'm starting to feel like we need a live demo of this.
Oh.
Again.
Get Mark back here.
No. Does anybody have it up? No.
I don't. Well,
I mean, he has it on screen right now.
Well, yeah.
Well,
but
I have it's a screenshot, but I probably
like the field names, like where are those showing up? That find. What does it say? Find in current bound set records.
Yeah. Well, and that's a nice thing.
So when you hit that plus button, what do you get there?
You just get a blank drop down. Just one drop down. So like where it says date higher, it's blank. So it's just that drop down. So depending, and then you click on it, you see all the fields that are available.
Yeah.
Once you select the field, your operator is going to be based on the type of field it is.
So I have some really naughty layouts that have a lot of fields on them.
You'll just have a long list.
Yeah, you just have a long list of, like, if you don't want to remove those fields and you don't want them searched on, you just put them as excludes in the thing that, the parameters that you pass into LOGICATOR for that layout. So it will just exclude them from the list. So, yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. I would show the, well,
I can show it. I have it.
You have it? Okay. It's just, I haven't implemented where there's employee data, so I probably shouldn't.
And this is the last thing you were going to show
This
anyway?
was my last thing, yeah. So we can pass the, I can disconnect from.
Where's Vince? You gonna show us something, Vince?
Hold on, let me see if I have. Where is it?
Are you on the meeting right now?
Yeah, no, I am on the meeting, but I'm not sharing my screen yet. I'm just trying to see what I'm gonna demo here. All right. Okay. All right. Sharing my screen.
Okay. Presenter? Yes.
Okay.
Says you're a presenter. There you are. We have to get everybody to turn down the resolutions before these meetings, so.
How come we're not seeing it there?
Oh,
AirPlay.
Oh, right. Okay, sorry. I mean, there's only 4 mosquitoes in the room. But what is this room?
ORD. O-R-G.
ORD.
Sorry, O-R-D.
Ordinances.
I guess you're the only one not on the meeting. We could have just done it all off screen.
Oh.
It's just for you, David.
No, I mean, it's people online. I mean, they're.
Oh, no. They see what we see on our screens.
Oh, okay.
No, this is just for the room.
Oh, right, okay. I'm gonna change my resolution 1 level down.
Yay. For my size.
Ooh. I don't know if that's better or that's worse. Okay, anyway.
You're just gonna have to scroll a lot more.
You're gonna scroll now, right?
Yeah, what is this? Oh, because it's,
not right now.
what is this?
Oh, gee, it's really small. Okay, all right.
But we can read it.
Yeah, we can read it. All right, so I have, this is,
Inspector Pro.
version 7, cool, yeah, hey. So this is a little example, multiple solutions. I have one analysis here. If I open up that window, sort of dashboard.
You're okay?
All right, so if I go to, actually, hold on. Go to this example file, and there's 44 fields in here. So this is my field list. This is the file. This is the tables, assets, vendors, employees, assignments. It's one of those templates from FileMaker. On the right at the top here, you'll see the Find button, and what this will do is it'll bring up the LOGICATOR interface. And the LOGICATOR interface is basically scraping the fields that are on the layout that I choose that I wanted to display. So I could say field type is calculation, normal, invalid, right? Or I could say I want to find field data types that are text, right? So hello, text. Okay, so find. And so now I'm looking at all my text fields. If I wanted to, I could hold the control key down, click on it. It remembers the last find, right? And it stores that, right? And if you wanted to add another rule group, like another rule group here that I could say field name starts with, let's say, primary, right? So now I'm going to find all my text fields that have primary key, okay? So, and then over here,
And it's just picking that up off the fields that you have available then.
Yeah, it's, I mean, a little more customization with this because
You don't want to search on absolutely everything?
I have some special value lists that I have, and the file is not, how do I say, the file is in, LOGICATOR is embedded within this, so it opens up as a separate file.
Does LOGICATOR use value lists?
Yeah, it uses value lists, yes, I believe.
How does it find the value list?
That's a question for Mark, I don't know.
Okay.
So anyway, there it is, and then if you wanted to, you could do things like, okay, so I'm going to find all my my number fields this time, and if I add a rule group, now I can say things like all or any, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they can do things like, I want to find all of these, and none of these, which means it omit like another request, but omit these records. So find these records and omit these ones. So you could build really fairly complex search requests with this. Plus, once you're done, and if you did something fairly complex and something that you want to repeat often enough, you can save it. And so that means the next time you can say, I want to use one of the requests that I saved, and you can load it back in, and then it will load all the request criteria. So, I mean, Mark worked really hard at putting this together. It's very sophisticated. So, anyway, just small LOGICATOR demo. We'll leave it to Mark to come and give us a better demo. Okay.
Do you have a new version of it coming out, or?
He does. Well, eventually, yes.
Oh.
I'm not sure what all the detailed plans he has, but yes, he's definitely looking forward to updating it at some point.
I think I know. I know the answer to this question, but you know, when you see somebody do that much work on it, and then somebody gives it away for free, you go, okay, what's the strategy there?
Yeah. Again, I defer to Mark.
Oh, okay.
But his decision is going to be on that in the future. So.
But is it a beeswax product, or is it a?
I mean, it's on the Beeswax website. A little bit like, how would you say, Barcode Creator. I mean, Jeremy built it, and Todd sells it. But you know, I mean, Mark works at Beeswax, so he is also you know, having it presented. But he's the author of it.
Okay.
So, yeah, I would definitely invite him to give us another demo when he's ready.
In fact, a little commercial. We're going to probably be inviting all our previous speakers. we need to fill some slots for the year coming up.
Okay. Do you want to go next? Do you have something you want to show?
A little bit. In fact, do you have anything you want to show?
No, I didn't have anything.
I want to prep for something I want to show, but I'm not ready.
Oh.
So I'm going to hand it to you.
Sure.
And
I'm not quite ready either, but I'll go ahead and try something here.
Okay.
So how do I make myself presenter?
Do I need to switch over to you?
You have been. So. Can I make it just FileMaker? I don't know. Sure. Oh, I see. It's individual windows. All right, so share.
Yeah,
I got to stop sharing. I got to stop sharing over here. Hold on.
All right, who's this? Is this me or you?
That's yours. That was mine. Now it's yours.
All right.
No,
so
but
who's on?
I'm seeing a built-in retina display. Systems.
Why did it go there? All right.
Because that's what it's showing you, that it's showing everybody else.
Screen sharing. How do we fix that? Change.
Right here, change what you're showing right there in the drop-down.
Can we just say FileMaker?
Go up a little bit. I think it's not showing. Looks like, if you head on FileMaker, try that.
Oh, I have to do individual windows?
Really?
So just do the main screen then, right? All right. How about now?
Yeah, I see.
All right. So, actually, that LOGICATOR is actually a good segue to what I was thinking about, because the the thing that really wowed me about LOgiCATOR is how modular it was. Is that LOgiCATOR is a separate file, completely separate file that you have that stands alone, and all your other applications make use of that file. That means you don't have to clutter up all your other FileMaker files with a bunch of other scripts and things. I think you maybe bring in I forget what you bring in.
I think you bring in a script.
Yeah, you just bring in a couple scripts, but they all go back and refer to the same interface file that LOgiCATOR has stored in it. So that means you don't have to put layouts all over the place.
Right.
You just, or scripts, because there's a bunch of scripts that are only in LOgiCATOR, and those get reused. And so I like the whole strategy he had of doing reuse and making everything modular. And that became really important for, I guess I should share on. Of course, you could actually just look at my screen. So here we go.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing.
All right, so you can all see?
Yeah, I can see it, yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, this is an interface where they have to be able to pick off majors. So I work at a university, and this is an interface that they're custom making these sessions, and how many different people from different majors can come into those sessions. Actually, it was originally just by colleges, and so we had to make it so that, well, what if they wanted to do specific add a specific number of people from a specific major from that college, there would be a picker so that they could do that. And the fact that there's this major picker where they can pick, from a list of majors, I said, well, you know what, that's an interface I would not only want here, but there's a lot of other solutions we have at San Jose State where it would be nice to be able to pick off of a list of majors and have something where I could do a quick search for, all the English, and the English would pop up, and I could pick and choose, some of these English majors and add them to the list. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to do that here because this is actually in production, but I'll hit cancel. But in any case, I said, that's really nice. How do I do that? And so I actually went back to the LOgiCATOR solution, and to the Beeswax website where he discusses that. Mm-hmm. And I don't think he gave a full description of it, and he actually ended up pointing us somewhere else, but it was a good resource nonetheless, because I went there and I went to somebody else's page, and they had like a more scaled down demo of how to do that. And just real briefly, it makes use of on-timer scripts.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's, what's his name? The British guy. The guy.
Yeah, they didn't come prepared.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, last minute meeting.
Yeah, but if you go to the LOgiCATOR discussion, you'll find it.
Okay.
Yeah. And so that was really useful. I mean, so I'm not even using LOgiCATOR, but LOgiCATOR was really educational about how to make things very modular. And so that's, I said, hey, now that I can do this, it actually forced me to use JSON and a few other things too. That I was kind of like dragging my feet on. And so, yeah, now this interface I can employ anywhere. All I have to do is, it's the same sort of thing. I have to add a few other scripts to the other solutions, but once these scripts are over there, I don't have to add any other layouts. They all make use of the same interface to go and pick and choose, the majors that we need to add into this solution or any other solution. So yeah, and ultimately what it's doing is let me think. It's calling the script. It's calling the scripts over in. I might as well describe something else we've got going here. This because it's something strategic. We have. I have one file that has essentially all our non-student data in it, or it's not personal data, or it's more like tables. And in fact, it's called PS Translata, named after mostly after PeopleSoft, because PeopleSoft has all these translation tables for all kinds of things. So what's nice about this table is I don't have to have much security on it. It can be a read-only file that anybody can look at, because there's no personal data inside of the system. It's just, I can go to, this will be a list of, what those student groups mean, or a list of, state abbreviations, or all kinds of things are in here. Uh-huh. And so the ACID plan table, that's our table for storing all the majors, so you have the codes that are there, and the descriptions, and anything else that informs you about what a major entails. And so so yeah, so I'm making use of this as our kind of our modular file that we can employ to create those interfaces where they can pick and choose, off of, major states, anything that we come up with. So I'm trying to make, using that example, I'm trying to make it so that those scripts and that interface, or those interfaces are as modular as possible, where I only have to have one script that does most of everything that I need. So this is just the first one that I've developed so far. But anyway, yeah, it's been John Renfrew, huh?
John Renfrew, that's
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I think he's from Attitude. Yes.
Yes. Yep.
So
the technique that John and Mark, I guess I also want to attribute it to Mark, because John did something that inspired Mark, and then Mark kind of took it a little bit further. But anyway, they both were one of the first two to explore the card window and installing the card window, because if you have a file reference to another file, that layout that you're building a layout on, that layout can come from the other file, which is confusing.
Mm-hmm.
You can make a layout and say this layout is coming from this other file. So the context is the other file, the other table in the other file. Not just like another layout in a card window, but another layout in another file.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean that's
what this is in this case. Is I'm popping up a card window out of the other file.
Right. But the layout is also like coming from the other file. So, and then the other thing that Mark did, which was kind of cool, was that just before you get into the card window, he launches a on-timer script.
That's it.
That gets sandwiched between the windows, and it's kind of stuck there waiting to run. And so as soon as you close LOGICATOR, that script fires and takes over somehow. I don't remember now where it gets its parameters or how that communication happens, but that there's a little bit of magic in the fact that got triggered, and then it's waiting there to fire, and then when it fires, that timer kills off itself first and then does what it needs to do.
Yeah.
So it's
it was the same situation where I could probably implemented this faster, but because I had the examples right before me. I said I was trying to understand, well, why are we doing on-timer scripts?
Right.
And I was looking at it and trying, well, what happens when I do it? What happens when I don't?
Yeah.
And then and so I understood it when I implemented it, and now I've forgotten why it is I'm doing what I'm doing. But it's exactly how you described it. It's got this on-timer script just before it runs off and goes to that picker that's out in the other file.
So it has something to do with the fact that like LOGICATOR is a separate file, and you've collected all the search criteria there,
mm-hmm.
but now you need to send it back, right?
Right.
So somehow it's this community being able to gather up that data that it's now in LOGICATOR, and so
one thing I discovered early on is that just because you have access to the current file doesn't mean you have access to the other file,
mm-hmm.
and so then you have to make sure that they have the same the required access in that other file to get the data,
mm-hmm.
and it's like, well, you've got to find a way to pass that data without without changing all that security, and this actually solves the problem. And I can't describe exactly how that does it, but the fact that you're able to go out and run that script, pull back the parameters.
We have our next speaker.
Who?
Mark.
Oh, really? It's been a couple of years, right?
Yeah, it has. Cool. Anything else?
But I was thinking, I feel like we should wait till he gets his next version
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that.
Okay, cool. So, so far, performed script on another client, Barcode Creator, LOGICATOR techniques, roughly. Okay. Anything else?
Yeah.
You want to?
You still doing conversions, huh?
Yeah.
David Simpson's here, by the way. He's, what's that product?
FM Pro Migrator.
FM program, and a service too, right?
And a service, yeah. Well, I'm actually working on a consulting project where someone's got like a 25 file system, and I'm, doing a table consolidation for them. And I'm testing that with the, latest, Mac OS versions, latest, FileMaker versions, and making sure that, have to tweak a few things here and there for future release of mine. And what is it? What's that product? Are you using, what was that? I'm trying to remember the name of the guys from Scotland. Oh, LOgiCATOR. Yeah. You're still using LOgiCATOR for some of that? Yeah, remember, the migrator is built with LOgiCATOR.
Oh, okay, that's right.
And so I'm going through, and, I write to do the controlling process on the Mac, it's all AppleScript. So basically I'm sending AppleScript, I'm dynamically running AppleScript code in real time and using that to control FileMaker, basically, and telling it to advance from one layout to the next, or tell it to open, manage value list window, or whatever the case might be, and, basically maybe even, click the buttons in many different places, create relationships, create table occurrences, all that is basically, something I'm automating with AppleScript on the Mac OS. So when you're doing you're running this, doing this as a service, you're utilizing AppleScript as well, right? Right. Well, I'm using my own software, and basically, of course, that is using AppleScript. And now they can get, but there is a application called FileMaker Pro Migrator that. Can they get that for Windows also, or is that? Yeah, there's a Windows version, but there are some limitations on Windows. A few versions ago in FileMaker, I lost the ability to really make it create relationships anymore because there were certain objects I just could not automatically select anymore. And so I just tell people, well, if you want to build relationships, you got to do that on the Mac OS. Because I use a different automation software on the Windows side of things, and I don't think it was that software's fault. It was just, like you couldn't even do type ahead as a person to type ahead in certain areas to get Windows to select what was needed the way the table occurrences. And it's like, well, if that doesn't work, then I cannot make this work. So basically, I just tell people, okay, if you really want full functionality, you do that on the Mac OS. Wow, that's a switch. Yeah. Pretty much everything else I do, will work on Mac and Windows. But that's basically just a limitation. That's going back to at least, FileMaker Advanced 14 or 15 that I ran into that. Right. That's great. Well, you ready, Vince?
Yeah.
Oh.
Do you have to share on there too?
Unless David sits next to you.
I see. All right.
Are
you logged? Yeah, you're logged in.
I'm logged into Go.
Okay.
Me, yeah.
Stop.
All right.
Screen, change presenter. Oh, that's nice. Vince.
Okay. There you go. So I have a movie.
How's your resolution there? What is that?
Pre-recorded movie. Is it too small?
It's all right. As long as I don't have to read anything.
Okay, you don't have to read anything. I have a few slides that I presented before this part of my presentation. This is about a blog post we posted, I don't remember now, after the release of FileMaker 18, to run imports on server. Have I ever talked about this here? Imports on server?
You've talked about it, running stuff on server a couple times.
Yeah, like I do a lot of stuff like on server, but one of the things that's different, so we had a blog post about performing imports on server before, and we found a way to kind of get them to work. Basic idea is if you're not using FileMaker 18 server, you have two directories that you can output and import from, the documents directory and the temp directory.
That's right, because you can't go between two files. Sorry, I was missing what you were saying. But you can't import between two files on server, right?
Well, you can import from one
Directly.
FileMaker table to another FileMaker table. That's a separate issue.
Oh, okay.
But you can't import from any directory on server. There's only 2 directories you can import from, or subdirectories therein. So the documents directory and any subdirectory therein, or the temp directory and any subdirectory therein. And the temp directory is only available during the duration of the script execution. Once the script completes, it disappears.
That's good.
So before 18, the way to get around this was you would create on the FileMaker server another location where you could store your FileMaker file, and you would point it to a directory within the documents directory. And because of that, when you have external containers, those external containers then reside underneath some directory structure that is inside the documents directory. And so when you would upload the Excel file into a container, because it's externally stored, it's on the server now in a location that can be imported from. And so you would construct the path, you'd pass it to the import dialog, and the import dialog would succeed. However, to do that involved knowing how to do the changes on the server to support it. You know, little, and then there were some permissions things you had to do, and anyway, it's not trivial, but it's not that hard either. So,
but you're saying to skip it.
So yeah, 18 now you can skip it altogether, and all you need to do is basically you can have the file hosted normally, and when you put the file in a container, that file now is, because it's externally stored, is now on the server, but it may not be within documents subdirectory or temp subdirectory, but it's not a problem, because with the file write capabilities in 18, you can rewrite that file out to a directory of your choosing, and then pass that path in and import the file. And in so doing, and exploring that technique, and writing the file out, I mean, you know, less than a megabyte, some of these Excel files, whatever. I mean, even if you have hundreds of thousands of rows, they're not hugely, you know, that big. And writing a file out is pretty quick, very quick. And so in so doing, in researching this, I found some strange anomaly with regards to communication between client and server. So the slide deck shows here, using the network monitor tool that Jeff Benjamin made available on the community, but it's still hard to find because for some reason it's not posted in the community yet. But anyway, it's a way to monitor traffic on port 5003. And if you look, these are local fields, and there's traffic going in and out for text fields, if I edit a number field, et cetera, et cetera. So like basically when you edit a record, the whole record is scuttled up and down, not just data in one field. It's the entire record. What's interesting is with global fields, so like these are local fields, but with global fields, you'd expect no traffic to go over the network if they are global fields. However, if it's a container field, it will send the data over the network if it's a global container field. So let me pause for a moment. So if you have a global container field and you put a file in it, it sends that file to the server, even though it's a global container field.
Really?
Yeah. And so I learned this
Why would you
because
do that then?
Clay and Chris Irvine were talking at DevCon, and Chris was researching something and found out about this and was asking Clay, and I happened to be there during that conversation, and I thought, oh, that's interesting. And so it's some old code that's in there for whatever reason. I don't know why, but it does that. And so there is a way, multiple ways you can get around it if you don't like the fact that you're sending the file up. And in the technique that I demoed, so let me show the movie. And so I can describe what's going on. So this is a global container field. And what I do is I drag the Excel file into the global container field. It has a trigger. It will create a record in the import table, move that file into that import record, and that container on that record is externally stored. So now it's been moved to the server. And then the rest of the execution happens on the server. It gets the import record ID, finds that import record, rewrites the file out to a location that it can import from, and then basically imports from that location. And you'll see a parent and child relationship. The import record is the parent, and all the rows of data are related to that import. So so what happens here? So I drag the file in. It triggers the script and creates the record in the import table. And as soon as that's done, then it's about 12 seconds. The import happens almost instantly. So now the record is being created, the file is being sent to the server, or the record is being committed, the records are imported, and then it's done.
What's that interface? I'm looking at that import on server with validation up in the upper left. What is that?
So
So
now if I do it again.
Is that a Mac window?
A Mac window?
Is that the Finder you're looking at up here?
Yeah. This top left.
Okay.
Top left is the Finder window. So I did 2 imports, and the imports were one data set. So let me pause here. So the first one, the one that's the bottom one, created records. And so the way it does it is the top portal is import rows, so the imports that you execute, and then the file would be stored in that import record. And then the bottom rows are the child records, or the rows in that Excel file that were extracted for that import. And they're extracted in a process where they're extracted in a temporary table, and then validation happens there before they get created into the table of truth, or you know.
Like a live table.
Yeah. So like in this example, I did 2 imports, and in the second import, I had one record that got changed, one that's invalid, one that's unchanged, and one that's new, and then all the rest of the stuff is unchanged. So to demonstrate that, like, we can add to data and update data and that kind of thing by this technique. So it took 12 seconds because we put the file in the global container field. It communicated with the server. It took about 4 or 5 seconds to transfer that file to the server. And this was done like over a WAN. So it was like slow wireless network, whatever. But if you do it differently or architect it differently, a la LOgiCATOR, right? So you could have a file that is a local file. So I'm going to reset the demo, and I'm going to do this again, but I'm going to go to a different layout. So I'm going to show on a different layout. And so everything looks the same, but the idea is that there is another file that is this NIOS, I forget the prefix, what it means, but basically that's deployed as a local file. And there's a file reference to that local file. So when I drop the file into the container, it's actually creating the record in the file, in the local file. So, and there's a trigger there. So no network traffic because it's not a global, it's local. And then what it does is it because there's a trigger, it says, oh, create the record in the import table and stick this file in there. Now the file is getting transferred only once. In the other case, it was being transferred twice. Once in the case it goes into a global, send the file to the server, wait 6 seconds. In this case, you only wait 6 seconds once, not twice. So you'll see it's much faster. And just to prove that it is the local file, that you can see that I put it in the local file and it showed up in there. Okay, so now I'm going to drag the file, I'm going to put it in the container, and we'll see that it's about 6 seconds to run. So there, grab the file, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then the file is created on the server, and then the import is done. So a lot faster, less network traffic because you're not sending the file twice. And then we do the follow-up import as well because we're demoing, the 2 imports basically. So anyway, that's it. This is available in the blog post. So can you read with that resolution? Do I need to, Robert, do I need to make it bigger? Sorry. I mean, there's nothing to read.
Sometimes we have, if I have a smaller screen and it actually...
No, that was just about Eric, because I saw that he read from your Mac OS window title bar. So
right.
I'm like, you see, you can read.
Yeah. Okay. So that's it. I mean, again, it's on the blog post, imports on server.
Yeah, let's go find that.
Yeah, go find it and we'll post it. Find it.
On beeswax, you say?
Yeah. You want to post it? Okay.
You say import on server?
Yeah. This was when the tariffs between U.S. and China were there, so it was like imports without tariffs.
Okay, I saw that. Yeah.
Anyway, so that's that, and we do a lot of stuff on server.
Was this at May 2019?
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah. And so if you go to that blog post, you can download this file and
I see it. Import without tariffs, yeah.
And tear it apart. The only thing that blog post does not have is this local file, because we discovered that afterwards when I was preparing for those talks in Europe in October, and I never updated the blog post with this local file. But basically, the local file is very easy to build. You build a local file. In this case, it's got one field. It's a container.
Oh, you got a demo file and everything.
Yeah, and then you take the file and you insert it into a container in a hosted file. And then when you open the hosted file on OpenScript, we'll deploy that file, knows where it is, gets a variable file reference, and now presto, it has a variable file reference in there to call scripts in that file or to display a table occurrence that comes from that file in here. So it's cool. We do that for a lot of things lately. I think if we go back to your title of tonight's presentation, which is my coolest things, this has been the coolest thing that we discovered in 2019. This local file. We wanted to call it the Trojan method, but it wasn't necessarily a good idea. But anyway, the cool thing about this is we now use the local file for editing and creating data. So if you can imagine, it's like our take on MVC. So the local file is the model. The layouts are layouts in the main file that are based on table occurrences in the local file. And so, and the controller is the scripts that are in the main file that you trigger off of the layout that you've created. So basically you have a window, and then you say, let's say a project, and you want to create a new project. You create a card window that points to a layout in the local file for a new project, and it's got fields to capture for a new project. And so you create a record locally. It's like a local cache that you manage. You fill all that out. There's no network traffic. You can, exit the fields, do whatever you want. It's all local. When you're done, you run a script. It can do the validation, capture all that data, send it to the server, create the record, and return back the ID so that you're now sitting on the newly created project record. If you want to edit it, the same process. Grab all the data, create a record locally, bring up a card window, and you're looking at the record that you were just on, but in a card window, and it's local. So it's local cache you modify and stuff like that. So I mean, that's
not all on this in this blog post, right?
That's not in this blog post. That's a blog post to be written.
Oh.
When I have time. Yeah. So like that's coming because that was something late last year that we kind of evolved to. We were doing it with globals. We were, card windows, but including this idea of this local file was really late in the later part of last year that we really honed that in and refined it, but we haven't really put a whole blog post around it, but we will.
And in that local file, would you use globals in there as well, or not necessarily?
Yeah, I mean, you could if you
local to that one user.
Yeah, it's to that one user. You could if you wanted to, but the cool thing is, before we were using global fields to put in popovers, or so let's say I want to edit this record. I click a button.
Right.
It puts the values in globals, but unfortunately, if you have multi-window solutions, all of a sudden it's like one user, one window, but they open up another window, and now there's crosstalk between those globals, and you could create a mess where it's like, I load the data from this record, I want to edit it, I open another window on another record, and now I've got data from that record over here, and if I save that, I've moved the data from one record into another. It's a big mess. And so the local file kind of gets rid of all that, because every time you open an edit or a creation, you're creating a record that's pointing specifically to a record locally.
So you could have multiple windows open on the same layout. It'll have those records separately.
Exactly. Multiple windows with their own card window to edit data that belong to that record, or a new record where you're creating a new project. Now that record belongs to that new project record, and then you submit it and whatever. But
do you do any cleanup back and you?
Yeah. Once you've created the record, you get rid of the local record. Once you've edited the record, you get rid of the local record.
So it always stays pretty much blank.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it comes.
The record ID you're saying?
Yeah, if you're editing a record, then you're grabbing the ID of the one that you're editing as part of the process, so that when you're done, you send it to the server, and the edits are done on the server, never locally. So that's the other thing that we do.
And Vince, can I ask you?
Yeah.
About this technique, and because some people, instead of doing something like that, like a local cache, or they'll control the commits, and they'll say, okay, if the person ends up validating the input, then they commit, and if not, they just revert. So I'm curious as to where it sits when we compare those two together. So
yeah, and one of the methods that we originally came up with, the privilege set that the user was under had only view access, so they could never create, edit, or delete anything. So it was all controlled by execution of the script on the server, running full access. However, we didn't like that so much because it's not, how do you say, congruent in terms of these are your permissions. And so we were opening up too many scripts to run with full access. So now we're changing that and evolving it a little bit more to the point where the user has the permissions they have, but the layout that they're on has view access to the layout, and it has only view access to the record, no ability to edit the record on that layout. So they can never lock the record, but and so if they're allowed in their permissions to create, edit, delete, then we just transport that permission to the server because it's running on their behalf. So if they have the ability to delete it, they'll delete it. So we're never running scripts with full access anymore. So we're just running it the way it is set up for the user. If they don't have access to delete, then it doesn't get deleted. But to your point, Robert, about like at some point you try and open the record and do maybe on a trigger or something, you do some validation and you commit it that way. We never went down that road. I don't know why, but we opted for, using globals, and then we had this limitation, and then we ended up with this other approach, and we're quite happy with it. But I think I seem to remember triggers were more cumbersome to some degree, and especially when we had some examples we looked at where triggers were on every field, and it was like, that's just too messy. So this is a lot cleaner.
Good.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I promise I will write it up and post it at some point early this year. There was one other thing I wanted to mention about it. Some people say, well, how do you deal with the fact that, like, you start editing a record and I'm, gonna edit the same record? So for some of the projects that we worked on, the client didn't care that you started and someone else edited the same record. What was more important to that client was the fact that there was an audit trail. What got changed by who? And so when you control the transaction of what you're setting up on the server, you can also audit what got changed. And that was more important. But if you needed to deal with, like, locking or whatever, and using the modification count of the record isn't such a great thing. I give you an example. Let's say you have a record where you have a concert tour, and you're mostly responsible for the dates that the concert tour starts and ends, and I'm responsible for the legal contract of that concert tour. If we both go in and edit that record, you're only going to edit those dates. I'm going to edit the legal document. So it doesn't matter that we're both editing the same record. When we submit, we're submitting into different fields. So there's no conflict there. So what we do is we build hashes based on the fields that you're modifying. And so we can check, see if someone else changed the hash of the fields that you were interested in working with. And if that's the case, we can bring up a dialogue saying, oh, Vince made a change. Do you want to see that change, or you just want to, overwrite with your changes? So there would be a way to pull the changes that were committed by someone else, and it would know that someone else made those changes on fields that you were modifying. So that's how that could be taken care of. Hope that is clear.
Well,
no? Oh, blog post.
Well, yeah.
It takes a minute to digest.
Yeah.
But that's great. I'm starting to work on a solution that's going to require importing large data sets. So I think this is going to be interesting to think through. Why did we lose?
Okay. Did you close my window, or did it close on?
I was playing around with the presenter.
Okay.
You weren't showing anything at the moment.
Yeah. No, that's good. Okay. It's 7 almost. Don't we have anything else to share? Robert or Edward? Do you guys have anything you want to share? Thanks a lot, Eric.
Well, when you're doing all the gesturing, all the high-end gesturing, that would have been really handy.
Part of my
I don't have
here.
I don't have anything specific. There are odd things that I stumbled on, or that I know that I can share, but nothing to show or something like that. I realized that I don't know how I realized it, but I realized that there's a way to prevent a full access account to delete records in a given table if you set up a relationship with a cascading delete, and then you break that relationship by deleting a field or deleting the table occurrence that it's matched with, or the table that has that table occurrence. And because FileMaker cannot respect the cascading delete, it will prevent the deletion altogether of the parent record in the cascade. So
meaning that even if you're full access, if you try and delete a record in there, it would not let you?
it would not let you because it's unable to follow through with the cascading delete. Correct.
Oh, that's interesting from an audit point of view.
Yes.
You know, like you put audit records in there and then you can't delete them no matter what because there's some kind of mechanism that says I can't do it. That's cool. That's a valuable tip.
You have something to show on that?
No, I have, like I said, I have nothing, not a file, nothing. It's just I happen to, it's something I really stumbled on, you know, and I was like, how come I can't delete, you know? And turned out, oh, there's this broken relationship thing, and I fixed it, and then my deletion went through. But then I figured, okay, so that means full access can be prevented from deleting something if you set up this in there in a, it sounds a bit evil to me because it looks broken, you know. So you need to break it for it to work.
Yeah, there was along those lines, I forget who showed me this. I think it was Fabrice, where you cannot set up a relationship from a summary field to another field, because if you wanted to ever use a list values, the summary list of, right? Because there's a list of all the records in the found set or whatever. You can't use that as your left key or right key in a relationship. However, if you have it as a text field and you build a relationship first, it's valid. You can choose that field because it's a text field, but then you say, oh, I changed my mind. I want this field to be a summary field. It still will be in the relationship, and that's how you do it. So you can use the list of values as part of your relationship. Yeah. So
interesting.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. I think Fabrice did that at some point.
Yeah.
It's always fun to stretch the limits and break things and see where things.
Yeah. I don't like list of that much because I've happened to had it in my data viewer at the wrong time when my found set was too large, and it just spins. So I try to avoid it actually, but that's a good thing to know. Switching the field type after the fact.
Yep. So I'm going to go experiment with your technique, and I just want to say that Eric is a juggler. And I think in his past life he wanted to be an artist.
Oh, I'm just playing around with it, trying to figure out how this works.
Cool. Well, I learned something tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to go experiment with Robert's technique.
Huh. Was Robert going to present in the future?
Robert, are you going to present?
Maybe someday. I don't know. I'd have to find something interesting. Or maybe I could bring back up some material from an old conference I did with the local Montreal group at CQDF. I'm kind of fond on custom menu. I think they're overlooked oftentimes, and there are things we can do with them that not everyone will think about. So
yeah, that would be great. That'd be super.
Well, there's a reason we're looking at Vince right now is I can't figure out how to take this off. Change the presenter back to me. My other computer. Oh, well.
Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Something's on my screen.
Are you able to take over?
You have been made the presenter. I don't need to share anything. Not now. So does that help you?
Yeah.
No?
No screens. Oh, get out of here.
Hey,
Can't quit.
Yeah.
I might do it.
So how many developers does it take to
figure out go to meeting?
Okay.
So I guess if that's everything, let me copy out this chat so we have all these links and everything. And then, whoops. And then we can end this recording. I think I got it. So thanks, Robert, and Edward, and everyone else who's out there.
So, hey, one second. Robert?
Yep.
Still there?
Yes.
So that technique, you have to have a related table where you set up cascading delete, and then you just you delete the table, but the relationship still stays, right?
Yes, the table occurrence stays, the relationship link stays with the original predicates, and something is broken in there. So either the field that it was involved in the relationship, you delete to break the link, or I think you might be also able to achieve the same thing if you delete the table that is underlying to the table occurrence. And yeah, that's about it, I think.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Thank you, David, for presenting tonight.
Yes.
Thank you, Steve, as usual, for hosting us, and Clara.
You're doing nothing.
Well, you did a similar presentation, but it was like all you last year when you had to did your favorite thing.
3 times last year, so I've done my dues.
All right.
There'll be a few more times this year too.
All right, so I got everything. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Recording is stopping.
Good night, everyone.
Thanks.